Welcome back, Whisky fans. December the 19th. Doesn't time fly when you're getting drunk? I mean, having fun. It probably does fly when you're getting drunk all the time as well, but you shouldn't really do that. Everything in moderation and all that. Day 19. Let's see what we've got. I'm really glad that none of these seem to have leaked so far. I was really expecting one of them to be in there empty, but hasn't happened yet. But today we have got another Mackmyra. So, as we found out last time, this is a Swedish single malt whiskey. This one is bottled at 46.1% and it's the Vintersol 2019. So, Vintersol, winter sun? Is that what that means? But the previous Mackmyra that I had is, where is it? It's right there, sort of in the middle of the leaderboard. So, that one had a surprising little hint of smokiness to it, and it was a unique and perfectly pleasant whiskey. So hopefully we'll be able to say the same for the Vintersol 2019. So I must say that Mackmyra Vintersol 2019 is a very subtle one. It's quite shy on the nose, at least out of the wax sealed bottle that I really must stop trying to nose them out of. But that doesn't leap out of the sample bottle, as I remember the Mackmyra Svensk Amerikansk Ek did. No apologies at all for my terrible pronunciation there. I'm sure it's nothing like how you're meant to say it, but I have no idea. Yeah, that's definitely much more subtle, much shyer than the previous Mackmyra. So I'm getting a little bit of wood spice on the nose. A little bit of that jelly bean confectionery note. A little bit of cinnamon, which probably is lumped in with the wood spice. And a little bit of starchiness as well. A little starchy, youthful note. I'm also getting something on the nose that I can't quite put my finger on. Elderflower, possibly? There's something in there that's a little like a perfumed floral fruit cordial drink. It'll probably come to me exactly what it is that it's reminding me of, but at the moment I'm going to say some sort of fruit cordial with a little hint of elderflower in there. So the nose on this one, it's mild, a little bit on the weak side, but it's also a little bit youthful, a little bit too young for my liking, but it's not an unpleasant nose, and it's slightly shy and mild, but pleasant whiskey so far. Let's see how it tastes. That was really unexpected and really unusual. So the palate on this one has a strong note. I'm not sure if it is the previous Mackmyra that I described this on before, or it might have been the Bren QV, but there's quite a strong note of cherry flavoured medicine on the palate of this one. I can also tell you that this Mackmyra Vintersol is not going to place above the other Mackmyra. I definitely prefer the smokiness that we had in the other expression from this distillery. This one is okay, but I definitely prefer the other one. I think when I described the cherry flavoured medicine that this is reminding me of, it's more the bitter base flavour of the medicine that I remember, rather than the cherry flavour. I'm also getting some of those jelly bean flavours on the palate as well. Sort of a heavily perfumed and heavily sugared, chewy, sweet sort of flavour on the palate. There's also quite a bit of bitterness on the palate. Towards the end of the palate, when all the other flavours are dying down, you're left with quite a bitterness. And it's not a bitterness that's coming from the oak. It's quite an unusual bitterness, but I'm not entirely sure that I like that either. In fact, I'd actually say that that bitterness on the late palate is the finish, because all of the other flavours, and there's not that much of it, but all the other flavours that you do get on the early palate, they really die off quite quickly, and you're left with a long, lingering, bitter flavour. That bitterness is actually reminding me a little bit of the World Whisky blend. It's a little bit of a stab in the dark, but I'm wondering if there might be some Mackmyra in the World Whisky blend, because there's just something, a small facet of both of those whiskies that line up a little bit for me. So that was a little bit of an experience. If anyone from Mackmyra or anyone that likes this whiskey is watching this, I do apologise a little bit, because my reaction to that was probably a little bit rude, but it's just me, my preferences. I didn't particularly like this one a lot, but in Mackmyra's defence, I do think that the Svensk Rock was a lot better than this. I would say that if you're looking for a whiskey to try from Mackmyra, then unless you really hate any sort of smoke in your whiskey, I would say go for the Svensk Rock Amerikansk any day of the week rather than this Vintersol. I would just give this one a miss. It's a hard decision between the Mackmyra Vintersol and the Bren QV. The Bren QV was also a bizarre creature, and the only reason I'm considering putting the Bren QV ahead of it is because it had that really strong, intense banana flavour going all the way through it. It was basically a banana liqueur, and it was quite bananas in itself. The Mackmyra was simpler and quite a bit more refined than the Bren, but it was simpler. But I am going to put it in the gap there. I'm going to put the Vintersol above the Bren QV, because I do think it is probably a better whiskey than the Bren. So that is another real oddball, something that I hadn't tried before, and something that I possibly wouldn't have tried if it wasn't for the Drinks by the Dram Advent Calendar. So I'm really curious to see what all of you out there thought of this one, because I'm sure that somewhere out there thinks that this is exactly their thing, and a lot of people must really like this. As I said about the other Mackmyra release, it is a unique thing. They're not trying to copy Scotch or bourbon or Japanese or anything else, which is really good that they're doing their own thing. But this one is probably not for me. Cheers.